Well, there's a lot more good information out there than there used to be. And in the old days, like when I first came to town in the 70s and 80s and even through the 90s, there was a group of producers that I would sort of call the Vultures. And they would prey on people that had just got to town and had obviously just gotten to town. Back when the Shoney's Inn was there and there was a restaurant attached to it, and that was sort of where people would come to stay. And there were guys who would just spend all day drinking coffee in the Shoney's and eavesdropping on conversations. And, well, son, you look, call me crazy, but you look like you could be a country singer. You know, where are you from? You know, oh, you know, and just there you go. And you know, and as a player, when you first get started, you taking whatever kind of work you can do. And there was one guy I used to work for, and he was just a jerk. He was so, it was just, you did the work and you just cringed the whole time. And I remember it was always a struggle to get paid. And I remember having to go to his office to get a check. And he's on the phone with somebody, and he's you know, he's going, hang on, you know. And I'll never forget this. He goes, I got her on the phone. Tell her you heard her demo and she sounds great. And I just looked at him. I said, I am not going to say that. I don't know who you're talking to on the phone. I haven't heard her sing. I am not going to do that. Just give me my check and let me get out of here. And those kind of guys eventually have been, their impact has been reduced, but there are still rip-off artists. They're just a little more sophisticated. And, you know, the stories are still out there of, like, you know, a guy that came to Nashville to do his big recording session was expecting a room full of musicians, and instead it's tracks that have already been recorded and that 20 other singers have sung on, and it's like he's already given the guy the money and trying to make the best of it. And unfortunately, when I hear about these things are usually when it's too late. So one of the things that we try to do is to let people know who they shouldn't be working with, and we have a do not work for list with a big stop sign on the top of our website, and we just recently put it on the web, and it's had quite a bit of a bigger impact than I expected it would. And people are coming out of the woodwork going, hey, my so-and-so told me I was on that list, and we've been publishing the list in our newspaper for years, but I don't think that many people outside our membership are reading it, and the print was so small that I don't think even the members are reading it that much. But we want to help people have a good experience when they come to Nashville. And, you know, when you do a union session and you hire union musicians and you do it the right way, you're going to get a better product than if it's all catch as catch can and it's cash and it's you know, and people are going, well, you know, hey, I got to go, I got another session. When you hire people through the union, they have an obligation to be professional. And you're going to get players that you can't get if you work non-union. And 99% of the top players in Nashville still do demo sessions because there's a certain ground level thing about demos. There's, you know, and everybody wants to work, and there's not as many big budget record dates as there used to be. But the beauty of playing on demos is the work is so efficient and it's so fast that, you know, your skills grow. I mean, that's how most of us came up through the ranks of playing on demos, and 5 or 6 songs in 3 hours is oftentimes the norm, which means you don't really have a lot of time to overthink it. You don't have a lot of time to make stupid mistakes. You really have to get on with it, but it's this collective mentality of 7 musicians, an engineer, a producer, and an artist all putting their heads together to make something great. And sometimes magic happens on those demos that people who make records spend many, many more times the amount of money to try to recapture that buzz that just happened when everything came together. And that's why demos many times end up getting upgraded and they become records. And one of the things that we're working on is taking demos, you know, all these existing demos, which really are records, and looking at new ways of making them available for release, because the definition of a demo session is it can't be released. It's literally a demonstration recording. So we're looking at new ways to do that. But in terms of helping people have a positive experience in Nashville, it's in our best interest to put up a list and say, these are people who don't pay their musicians. It's more of a heads up. It's, you know, it's not a legal attack. It's just, hey, these people haven't taken care of business, and if you're working with them, be forewarned. You know, get paid up front if you can, or just proceed with caution. And so that's changed a lot because there's more information about, you know, things like NSAI. people will tell you if someone's charging you more than, X number of dollars per song, they might be ripping you off. And we'll certainly try to help people do that. But, unfortunately, the vast majority of the unscrupulous producers don't do union work. And so it creates an issue for us. But and sometimes things that appear to be very legitimate on the front end. I have a situation right now with a record label from another town that signed, an artist that's had big deals in the past and hit records. And the record's done and out, and nobody's been paid. And there's about $50,000 out. And I'm all over this guy, doing what I can. It's tough because he's in another state. But you can't treat our people like that, or you certainly can't do it twice. And, there are limits to what we can do. But my approach has always been, hey, don't you want to do the right thing? And if you can't, if you can't wrap your mind around that concept, maybe you ought to find another group of people to rip off and get out of our town. So, I am very protective of not only the musicians, but just the scene. If somebody comes to town and gets ripped off and spends $100,000 when they only needed to spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 to make a record at whatever they were going to spend, you want that person to have a good experience, and they'll come back and they'll spend way more than that initial big amount of money. And other things might happen. Might become the next Taylor Swift. These songs may go into movies and make more money for the musicians. But if it's under the table, you get what you pay for. And so we want to try to help people avoid the big ripoff, because that's bad for everyone.